Morning, everyone. Okay, so let's start with the session that where we have ended. We have ended with the simplex method, the discussion of the first part of the simplex method. So let's quickly have a revision of what we have discussed, and then we will be continuing with the same process. So I hope you will be asking the questions if you are having any doubt. So what we have discussed that in order to prevent the conversion of the inequality to equality directly, we have included the slack or the surplus variables, whatever this will be. Yes. Okay. So we have included the slack or the surplus variable as per the case, and with reference to that, we have tried to create the simplex table. Now, this is the simplex table that we have created. At initial place, what we have mentioned that these are all the basic variables. We would be considering all the basic variables. So this was our example. So in this particular case, we were having less or equal to sign. So here we were having less or equal to sign. So we have converted it into the slack variable. So we have converted this to the slack variable. That is plus S1. And same for the less or equal to sign in the second constraint. So we have converted to the slack variable, that is plus S2. Now, in this particular case, we are having this four basic variables, that is x1, x2, s1, s2. And we have mentioned the coefficients corresponding to each of the basic variables in the objective function. That was 12, 16, 0, and 0. Now we are starting with the slack variables that we have added. So corresponding to each of the constraints, that is S1 and S2, we are having the variable, so we are having the coefficients corresponding to variables. Like in the first constraint, we are having the coefficient is 10 to x1, 20 to x2, 1 to s1, and 0 to s2. Same for the second constraint, you are having the coefficient of x1 to be 8, the coefficient of x2 to be 8, the coefficient of s1 to be 0, and coefficient of s2 to be 1. We have mentioned over here the solution. Then the next step was to calculate the multiplication of this thing, that is to find the Zj. Now Zj is nothing but the product of CBI multiplied by the basic variable coefficients. That is nothing but over here 0 multiplied by 10 plus 0 multiplied by 8. So it will be 0. Same 0 multiplied by 20 plus 0 multiplied by 8 will be 0. Same 0 and 0. So we have seen that in the very first step, every time we would be having 0. Every time we would be having 0 in the very first step. Now we would be finding Cj minus Zj. We would be finding Cj minus Zj, and this Cj minus Zj is nothing but the Cj, that is nothing but the coefficients of the basic variables in the objective function, and Zj is nothing but the product that we have just obtained. So we have seen that it is 12, 16, 0, and 0. Now in order to end the process, till which time this process should be continued? So in order to end the process, that is nothing but the condition of optimality. This is the condition of optimality, that if your question is demanding the maximization, then all the Cj minus Zj should be less or equal to 0. If your condition is demanding, or objective function is demanding the minimization process, then all your Cj minus Zj should be greater or equal to 0. So this is what we have seen. And over here, which we can just easily locate, it's nothing, it's greater or equal to 0. So that means our optimality condition is not achieved. So our next step, that was step number 3, was to calculate, or was to find key column, key value, and key row. So whatever value which you are having the maximum value in Cj minus Zj is your key column. So that is nothing but we have just find this key column. Key column is corresponding to the variable x2 that we have seen. Now divide this key column with the solution to find the ratio. So 120 divided by 20, so it will be 6. 80 divided by 8, it will be 10. And your key row will be the lowest ratio. Your key row will be the lowest ratio. Now this particular key row which is the lowest ratio, will be serving as your element which will be leaving your calculation in the next iteration. And the intersection of the key row and key column will be your key element, which is nothing but 20 over here. So these are the three variables that we have obtained. That is the key column variable is x2, key row variable is s1, and key element is 20. Now whatever key column will be there will be your entering variable. That is nothing but that will enter your calculation in the next iteration. And the variable corresponding to key row will be your exiting or the leaving variable. That means it will be exiting for your current calculation, because since one of the variable will be entering, you need to remove one of the other variable. That means you need to exit one of the other variable. So that is nothing but your leaving variable that is corresponding to your key row. So what we have done, if I can erase this calculation steps, then we would be starting with this particular step now. So I hope till this point of time, it will be clear to everyone. If you are having any doubt, then you can ask. Is this clear? Anyone having any doubt? Okay, fine. So let's continue with our discussion. So what we have discussed that S1 will be our leaving variable. Instead of S1, we will be having X2. So let me write over here X2. So I am entering X2. That is X2 will be our entering variable. And the next variable is S2. Next variable is S2. Now with reference to this thing, we need to calculate what will be our table formulation in this particular block. So what we have seen that our entering variable corresponding to the entering variable, the values will be divided by the key element. The values in the previous step will be divided by key element. So corresponding to the entering variable, whatever the values were there, you divide by the key element. So if you can see over here, your entering variable is nothing but the first row. It's the first row. Which are the values that are present in the first row? It's nothing but 10, 20, 1, and 0. 10, 20, 1, and 0. And the solution value was 120. So these were the values that were present corresponding to your first row in the previous table, in the step number 2 table. So corresponding to the first row, we have written the particular values. Now with reference to these particular values, we will be divided by the key element. So key element is nothing but 20, so divide by 20. Divide all the values by 20. So 10 by 20, it's 1 by 2. So just write over here 1 by 2. X2, 20 by 20, it's 1. S2 is 1 by 20. S2 is 0. And solution is 120 by 20, so it will be 6. So we have mentioned the entering variable x2. We have filled up this particular row. Now the next step is to fill the other row that is vacant. That is the second row. We need to fill this particular row. So for the filling of the row, we need to find the values. So for finding the values, this is the formula that new value is equals to the old value minus corresponding key row multiplied by corresponding key column divided by key element. So everybody just have a look over here what we are trying to do. What do we mean by the corresponding key row and key column? So suppose I am trying to find the value at this particular place. The first element in the second row, the first element in the second row corresponding to x1, corresponding to the x1, I'm trying to find. Then at this particular place, what was our previous value? It was 8. Old value was 8. This one 8. I'm just highlighting. It was 8 in our previous step. Corresponding key row value to this 8. So if you can see the corresponding key value, key row value, it's 10. So corresponding to this 8 in the key row value, it's 10. So just write over here 10. That is the corresponding key row. Corresponding key column value, that is corresponding to key column value, that is nothing but this one. It's again 8, multiplied by 8. Divide by key element, it's 20. So it will be this one, it will be this, so it will be 4. 8 minus 4, it will be 4. It will be 8 minus 4, that is 4. So we will be erasing this particular box and we will be writing 4 over here. Anybody having any doubt in calculating this particular 4? Have you all understood it? Okay, I'm repeating it again. So we want to find the new value corresponding to this block, the circled block in the step number 3, second table. So the previous value at this particular same block was 8. The value that I have highlighted over here in the first table, that is 8. So it will be served as the 8, that is the old value, minus corresponding key row value. So corresponding to this 8, what is the key row? This is our key row. That is the row that we have highlighted as key row. So corresponding to the key row value, what is the value that is having near to 8? So it's nothing but 10. The value corresponding to this 8 in the key row value, that is 10, multiply by the value corresponding to 8 in this key column. This is the key column. This is the key column. So it's again 8, divide by the key element. It's 20. So it will be get cancelled out. This is 4, so it's 4. 8 minus 4, so it's 4. So that is the reason we would be having over here 4. Okay. Let me just calculate the another value so it becomes more clear to everyone. So we are now calculating this particular value. That is the second value in the second row. So what is our old value? It's nothing but 8 again. This is the 8 that is corresponding to our old value. Now, with reference to this 8, what is the corresponding key row value? So this value that is corresponding to key row value, it's 20. So you can see over here it's 20. Corresponding to this 8, what is the corresponding key row value? It's 20. So minus 20. Corresponding key column value, now you can see that 8 already belongs to the key column. So the value corresponding to itself will be the value itself. 8 over here in the second element in the second row is 8. And we are looking forward for the corresponding key column value to this 8. And we know that this 8 itself belongs to the key column. So the value corresponding to itself is the value itself, that is nothing but multiplied by 8. Divide by the key element, that is 20. So it's 20, 20 gets cancelled out. 8 minus 8, it's 0. So we'll be having over here 0. We'll be having over here 0. Same thing if I continue with the S1, then the value which is there in the third place in the second column, it's 0. So old value was 0 minus corresponding key row. So corresponding to this 0, we are having 1. So minus 1 multiplied by corresponding value to the key column. So 0 to the key column, it's 8. So multiply by 8, divide by corresponding key element. Key element is 20. So it's 4 multiplied by, no, it will be 2. 4 multiplied by, and it will be 5. So it will be 2 by 5, minus 2 by 5. Same thing, continuing for the fourth value, that is for S2. So old value was 1, minus corresponding key row value. So 0 multiply by corresponding key column value, that is 8, divided by corresponding key element 20. So this will be definitely be turned out to 0, so it will be remaining 1. 0 multiplied by anything will be 0, so it will be remaining 1. Now corresponding to the solution, let's see what we are getting in the solution part. So for the solution, we are having 80. So our previous value was 80 minus value corresponding to the key row, that is 120, multiplied by value corresponding to the key column. So it was 8 divided by key element, so 20. So it will be 6. 80 minus 48, so it's 32. So these are the values that we have obtained for this particular next step. So anybody having any doubt in computation of any of these values? Anybody having any doubt in computation of any of these values? If you are having any doubt, then you can ask me. Anyone? I have received the response from 2 people. I am waiting for 3 to 4 more. Okay, fine. So we would be continuing with the calculation of Zj. So this you will be getting better once we do the practice of the same type of the questions. So multiply with the coefficient values. So it will be 16 multiplied by 1 by 2. So it will be 16 multiplied by 1 by 2 plus 0 multiplied by 4. So it will be 0 only. So this is what our first value is. Same thing, 16 multiplied by 1 plus 0 multiplied by 0. So it will be 16. Same thing, 16 multiplied by 1 by 20. 16 multiplied by 1 by 20. So it's 4 by 5. 0 multiplied by minus 2 by 5. So it will be 0 only. And 16 multiplied by 0, it will be 0. Same 16 multiplied by 6. So it will be 96. 96. Now, continuing with this thing, 16 multiplied by 1 by 2 was nothing but 8. So I will be writing over here 8, directly 8. Now Cj minus Zj. Cj minus Zj. 12 minus 8. It was 4. Cj minus Zj. 12 minus 8, 4. 16 minus 16, 0. 0 minus 4 by 5, minus 4 by 5. 0 minus 0, 0. Now, this is Cj minus Zj. Our condition of optimality says that for the maximization process, all the Cj minus Zj should be less or equal to 0. That means over here, all the Cj minus Zj are not less or equal to 0. It should be less or equal to 0, but it's not over here because of this 4. So that means this 4 is refraining us from getting the optimality condition. So because of this 4, we are not getting our optimality condition. So that means there is a chance to increase our profit. Now at this particular place or at this particular point of time, this 96 serves as our profit. This 96, that is the solution, serves as our profit. And what is this 6? This 6 is nothing but the number of units of x2. Now if you can just put over here the 6 in x2. In the objective function, if our objective function is 12x1 plus 16x2. Now x2 value is having the solution value to be 6. That means x2 is equals to 6. We are not having x1 in our table, so that means we are not having x1 in our table, so it will be 0. So you just calculate it, it is nothing but 96. So that is what we are getting over here in the part of the solution, that is 96. So this is the interpretation of this particular table, that you take 6 units of x2 with each unit costing 16. You take 32 units of s2 which is having 0 rupees per unit. So that is nothing but the slack variable. And there is no x1 in this particular column. So that means we are not having any x1 till now. But we can see that over here 4 is there, which is greater or equal to 0. That means there is still a chance to increase our profit if we increase this particular variable. So this particular column serves as our key column. That is what we have seen. The same process, now the same process will be continued. This particular column will be serving as our key column. Now with this particular step, we will be finding our key row. We will be finding our key row. So just divide it, 6 divided by 1 by 2, it was 12. 6 divided by 1 by 2, it was 12. 32 divided by 4, it's 8. 32 divided by 4, it's 8. 6 divided by 1 by 2, it's 12. And 32 divided by 4, it's 8. Same process, whatever minimum ratio was there, it's 8. So this will be serving as our key row. And this 4 is nothing but our key element. So what we can see over here, corresponding to the key column, the same step that we have followed, corresponding to the column, the variable is nothing but x1, that is our entering, and the leaving or exiting variable, that is corresponding to key row, that is nothing but s2. Now we would be making our step number 4, that is nothing but we would be making the table again. So continue with this same process. Now I want everybody to be ahead of me in doing this calculation, and I want response from everyone. What is the value corresponding to each of these things? So you can just start calculating the values. So basic variables, x2 remains as it is, and instead of s2 we are having x1. The coefficients are 12, 16, 0, 0. So corresponding to x2 it's 16, corresponding to x1 it's 12. Now calculate the values corresponding to the entering variable. So first of all, always calculate the values corresponding to the entering variable. And in this case, it's completely fine if you are just doing the calculation of the second row first. It's completely fine if you are doing the calculation of the second row first. So always calculate the values corresponding to the entering variable. And if I can just calculate the values corresponding to the entering variable, this is the entering variable. It is x1. So for the calculation of the entering variable values, you just divide by key element. So key element is 4. Key element is 4. So all the values will remain the same, divide by 4. So 4 divided by 4, it's 1. 0 divided by 4, it's 0. Minus 2 by 5 divided by 4. So minus 2 by 5 divided by 4. So it will be minus 1 by 10. So I'm just writing over here minus 1 by 10. and 1 divided by 4. So it will be 1 divided by 4. Solution 32 divided by 4, it's 8. So this is the values corresponding to our entering variable. Now for the another row, that is the first row, I am just doing the calculation over here. For the first elements, our old value was 1 by 2 minus corresponding to the key row value, that is corresponding to the key row value, it's 4, multiplied by corresponding to the key column value, the value is the same, the value is itself, divided by key element, divided by 4. So 1 by 2 minus 1 by 2, it's 0. Now the second value that we would be calculating, so the previous value was 1 minus corresponding to the key row, it's 0, multiplied by corresponding to the key column, it's 1 by 2, divided by key element, it's 1 by 2. So anything multiplied by 0, it will be 1. Just write 1 over here. Now S1, S1. So previous value was 1 by 20 minus corresponding to the key row, it's minus 2 by 5. Corresponding to key column, it's 1 by 2 divided by key element. Sorry, key element is 4. Over here also it will be 4. Key element is 4. So it will be cancelled out. Then it will be 1 by 20 minus 1 by 20. So it will be 1 by 10. 1 by 20 plus 1 by 20. So 2 times 1 by 20, it's 1 by 10. So I will be writing 1 by 10. For S2, let me just erase it. For S2, the previous value was 0 minus corresponding to the key column, it's 1 by 2, multiplied by corresponding to key row, it's 1 divided by 4, so it's minus 1 by 8. And the solution, if I can calculate the solution, the previous value was 6 minus corresponding to the key column, it's 1 by 2, multiplied by corresponding to key row, it's 32 divided by 4. So it's 16, this is 4, so 6 minus 4, it's 2. So I'll be writing over here 2. Anybody having any doubt in filling up this table? Is this table clear? Anybody having any doubt? If you are having any doubt, then you can ask me. Just feel free to ask. After this example, you are supposed to do 4 to 5 examples by your own self. So it's better if you can ask me. Okay, one question is that how we have written basic variable as x1. So you are trying to ask that why we have included x1 or how we have computed these values of x1.
Sir, how we have computed that?
Okay, for the computation of x1, what we have written over here, if you can just see this condition, for the entering variable, in this case, the entering variable is nothing but x1. So for the entering variables, the values of x1 will be divided by key element. So whatever values we were having in our previous case, we now want to find these values corresponding to the second row. So for this second row, whatever values we were having, you just divide by the key element. And the key element is 4. Or here the key element is 4. So 4 divided by 4, it's 1. 0 divided by 4 is 0. Minus 2 by 5 divided by 4, it's minus 1 by 10. 1 divided by 4 is 1 by 2 and 32 divided by 4 it's 8. So whatever you are having the values in that particular row, you just divide by the key element. So it will be forming this all the values. Is it clear, Karan?
Yes, I'm clear. It's
Okay. There is one question that doubt in entering key column and leaving key row. How to decide it? Okay, fine. So for this particular case, which is the entering and which is the leaving, what we need to find, this is the condition that you need to remember. This is the condition. For the key column, whatever highest value of Cj minus Zj is there, that will be serving as the key column. Key column will be having the highest value of Cj minus Zj. And key row will be having the lowest value of ratio. So for example, you are having this Zj. Once you have computed this Zj, after that you are computing Cj minus Zj. So you have computed Cj minus Zj. You checked the condition of optimality, that for the optimality, all the values of Cj minus Zj should be less or equal to 0. So over here, this value is not less or equal to 0. So whatever the highest value is there, you just select it to be the key column. Now divide the particular solution with the key column. So you will be getting the ratio. This ratio is nothing but solution divided by key column. Now with this particular ratio, whatever lowest value is there will be serving as the ratio. So over here 12 and 8 are there. So 8 will be serving as our ratio for the corresponding to the key row, and the intersecting element will be our key column. So whatever variable which is corresponding to the key column will be entering, and whatever variable corresponding to the key row will be leaving. So corresponding to key column, it's entering. Corresponding to key row, it's leaving. Okay, fine. So now continuing with our discussion of the same question, let me just erase it, all these calculations. So Zj is nothing but the product of these things. So 16 multiplied by 0 plus 12 multiplied by 1, it's 12. 16 multiplied by 1 plus 12 multiplied by 0, it's 16. 16 multiplied by 1 by 10, so let me write 16 multiplied by 1 by 10 plus 12 multiplied by minus 1 by 10, so I'm just writing minus over here. So 16 minus 12, 4, 4 by 10, so it will be 2 by 5. And corresponding to S2, it will be 16 multiplied by minus 1 by 8, so it will be minus 2. 12 multiplied by 1 by 4, it's 3, so plus 3, so it will be 1. And let's calculate the solution. For the solution, it's 16 multiplied by 2, so it's 32. Plus 12 multiplied by 8, it's 96. So it's 128. Calculate Cj minus Zj. It's 12 minus 12, 0. 16 minus 16, 0. 0 minus 2 by 5, minus 2 by 5. 0 minus 1, minus 1. So that means all the values are less or equal to 0, and that was what our optimality condition is. That's our optimality condition. That means the process is ended. That's it. We are now at the solution of our question. After so much long duration, we have reached to the solution of our question. So what is the solution? That means over here, whatever variable you are having, x2, corresponding to x2, you are having 2 units. So corresponding to x2, you are having 2 units. Corresponding to x1, you are having 8 units. So corresponding to x1, you are having 8 units. x2, 16 rupees per unit. x2 is having 16 rupees per unit. And x1 is having 12 rupees per unit. So that is what we have been given. And from this thing only we have computed our objective function. So you just put this particular values in the objective function, which is nothing but the objective function. You can just see over here. 12x1 plus 16x2. 12x1 plus 16x2. So let me just write over here the objective function to be 12x1 plus 16x2 plus 0s1 plus 0s2. So if you write also, then it will be okay. If you don't write, then also it will be okay, because the answer will be 0 only, because anything multiplied by 0 will be 0 itself. So 12 multiplied by 8 plus 16 multiplied by 2, it will be 128. That is the answer that we have obtained over here also. So your final answer is number of units x1 comma x2 is equals to 12, 8 comma 2. That is your answer. So once you reach to the optimality condition, you just check the solution, and corresponding to the solution, whatever answer you would be having, that will be your serving as the final answer. That's it for our this particular question. Anybody who haven't understood any of the step? Anybody who haven't understood any of the step? Are all the steps clear? I want acknowledgement from everyone. I am giving you 3 minutes. Just look over the entire process. Just look over the entire method. If you are having any doubt, then just ask me. I'm giving you 3 minutes. Okay. So everybody just look on your screen. I'll just mention something on the whiteboard. These are the homework assignment that you need to do. I already uploaded the PPT in the Canvas. So in that you will be finding corresponding to the linear programming problems, you will be finding 14 examples. The same 14 examples we have discussed as a part of mathematical modeling. Just remember the very initial phase where we have started discussion about the mathematical modeling. We have discussed 14 examples. Few of them, 3 to 4 of them, I have given you as a homework. So overall, there are 14 examples. Now you need to do those examples. You need to find the solution for those 14 examples corresponding to the graphical method. Now in the graphical method, we have seen the limitation that as of now, we can only solve the equations that are dealing with the two decisional variables because we are having two axes, x and y Cartesian axes. So you just filter out those questions that are dealing with the two decisional variables. And you need to do only those particular questions using the graphical method approach. And using the simplex method approach, you need to do all the examples, irrespective of the number of decisional variables. Just do all the examples, irrespective of the number of decisional variables. But as of now, we have started discussion about the maximization process. So you only do the questions which are corresponding to the maximization first. Then after one of the lectures, 1 or 2 lectures, when we are quite satisfied with the practice of this maximization approach, we would be starting with the minimization approach. So later on, we would be also doing the questions for the minimization. But as of now, you just start doing the questions corresponding to the maximization approach. Now, as far as the video is concerned, I have uploaded the video, but probably you might not be able to see the video in the YouTube playlist because I doubt I might have made the mistake in either selecting the visibility or I might have just forgotten to insert in the playlist. So I will be doing that updations now within a few minutes and you will be able to see the videos. So you start doing with this homework assignment and I guess for the submission of this assignment, I hope 1 week is quite enough. 12th July. I should be keeping the submission date to 12th July. I probably guess that for these graphical methods, there would be only 4 to 5 questions which are dealing with the two decisional variables. I exactly don't know how many questions are there which are dealing with the two decisional variables, but you just filter out this two decisional variable questions. And in this simplex question, there would be some 8 to 9 questions. So it shouldn't be taking more than 1 week of time. If you just seriously focus over the questions for 1 hour each day, then you can easily finish these things. So on the next Monday at midnight, I will be keeping the submission deadline. So it will be 11:59 p.m. Later on, I will be giving with the minimization process and we will be having some another deadline for those minimization questions. Anybody having any doubt in this thing? Is it clear? You might be having the thing in mind that why we are doing this many examples as a part of the assignments, but the reason for that is that many of you will be making mistakes during the exams while calculating. You might have just got the uh, clear idea what type of the calculations we are going to have. So you require at most practice of the calculators also. So just try to do the things easily. And there is one hint. I am not saying that you should be using this hint, but I have just practiced this all these things, and from my own experience, I am just saying that don't don't convert directly to decimal. Keep it in fraction. Keep it in fraction. The reason for this is that if you would be converting it to the decimal, then there are the chances that you might make the mistakes in rounding off. But while in the fraction, there are the chances that you might have the cancellation of the numerator and denominator in the next step. In the next step, you might have the cancellation of the numerator and denominator. For example, if you are having 1 by 21, then in calculation of this, in converting this thing, you will be writing something like 0.05. It's not exactly 0.05, it's approximately. So there are the chance that in the next iteration, there is a term that is 21. 21, suppose there is a term, let's say while doing the multiplication for zj, there might be the value corresponding to the unit to be 21. So this might get cancelled out and you will be directly getting 1. But if you are converting in this manner, then multiply by 21, you will be having something greater than this, let's say 1.05. It will be 1.05. So at the last answer, at the very last, you will be having the difference in the solutions. You will be having difference in the solutions because it is getting accumulated. You can see this difference is getting accumulated. This is corresponding to the one variable. Similarly, if you would be having 22, then it will be getting accumulated. At the very initial phase, 1 by 22 and 1 by 20 will seem to be very closure values, but it will get accumulated once you multiply with higher numbers and once you add up it. So this is what none of the books will have mentioned this hint because this is not what is to be exposed, but this is what comes while practicing. So that is the reason I am just giving you the hint that don't convert directly to the decimal, keep it in the fraction. There will be the some or the other places where this fractions will get converted to the either integer or the simpler numbers. So don't convert it to the decimal, the errors will get accumulated in the next stages also. So that's it from today's session. You can just write your roll number and name for your attendance and then you can leave. You can write your roll number and name for the attendance and you can leave. And in case of any doubt, you can just ask me.